Yeah, it's good to see you. At least it's a nice day today.
Yeah, fantastic day.
Let's start with injuries. Lewis Dobbin, what can you tell us on him? What have the scans sort of shown on his
Yeah,
issue?
not good. So, unfortunately, as expected. So, I think unfortunately that was his last minutes for us this season.
Which is a big blow because it looked like he was really beginning to step forward and add to your
Yeah,
team.
and he was starting to be important for us. And I think, like I've said a couple of times with him, especially he contributed offensively for us in a different way compared to some of the other strikers that we have. And he's really good at running in behind. He has a fantastic timing in doing so. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, mostly for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure he's devastated at that because it felt like a second opportunity to come here after obviously the experience he had at West Brom. And I think certainly looking on, it looked like he was really enjoying it as well. So has it been quite hard for him to process?
Yeah, it is. So, yeah, we take care of him, and it seems like he will do his rehab here with us. So we keep him close, and of course it's never easy for a player, especially because, like you say, he was about to find his flow, and I think he did a great game against Stoke, and I think he scored that goal against Swansea, and he was involved in a good way in the first 25-30 minutes against Blackburn the other day, and was also him being a part of that big chance for Ennis in the beginning of the game. So I think there's many good things about him. So yeah, unfortunate.
And I mean, in terms of obviously the way that all unfolded, you obviously took him off against Stoke to try and preserve him, and then obviously started against Blackburn and did that. So how do you reflect on sort of the week that transpired from him obviously coming off against Stoke to then starting and obviously having the same issue again at Blackburn?
Yeah, he is a player where we know that, like I said also a couple of times, he's very explosive. So he is a player that we need to take a little care of because there's a bigger risk with some of those players where that's a part of their game, and that's a part of their just genetics, how they look. So actually against Stoke it was the other leg, the other calf. We know he struggled a little bit with both Achilles doing his time as a football player. So he is a player that we always try to treat carefully, and he's not always in all the sessions when we're out there. He's not always doing everything out there because we need to take care of him. So it was a massive blow for all of us because, of course, could we have done something different? I don't know. You never know with those kind of injuries. But he was a player that we were really aware of in every decision we have taken so far.
And I mean, finally on him, I know obviously the fans took to him as well. Really liked him. We're beginning to see the contributions that he made. You know where their mind will be. It will be the summer, and whether this is the end of his Norwich City journey. I mean, clearly there's a lot that needs to happen, and we've got a lot to play. But would you, if the opportunity arose, like to see him back here next season, if sort of the world's aligned?
Yeah, of course. We have to wait and see, and we have to wait and see what will be the things going on this summer. But I think now showing for him with us that he was developing and he was doing it fast, and he was actually doing very, very well here towards the end, based on, I don't know how many games, 10, something like that, maximum, which is really, really positive. And I think what he gave to the team in many ways was really positive. So I think we will sit down with him and his agents and his people to go through if there's any opportunities that he can actually stay with us, or he can continue, or he can be here on a loan spell next season. I think it's realistic that we will have those conversations.
Ben Crisene, what can you tell us on him? Because I think obviously left Ewood Park in a boot and was on the end of two pretty robust challenges, should we say? So how's that looking?
Yeah, it's also the last minutes for him this season, unfortunately, because like I said after the game, I think he was doing well, and I think he was stepping into that role in a very good way, and I think he was aggressive defensively. I think he solved his 1v1 situations and duels very well, and I think he was also creating something for us offensively. So in many ways a good performance, and in many ways a good step for him to take with the team and in his own development again. So unfortunate for him again, and of course also for us, because we struggle a little bit with players available.
And is that an ankle issue for him?
It is, and it was based on the first tackle, which is my opinion. It's a straight red already, that one, but for some reason it was not. And then of course fair play to him, because he really tried to carry on, and he really tried to play, and we gave him some minutes out there to see if he could carry on with it, but of course when you see that injury, it was not possible. So fair play to him for really giving it everything he could.
Lucien Mahovo obviously missed the Blackburn game with a slight knee issue. Where's he in terms of his fitness?
Realistically, after the international break. Again, struggled with some knee pain. I think we have to inject it, but also realistic that he will be back on pitch after the international break, but not really available for the next 3 games.
Kenny McLean. Any sort of update?
Back in training.
Good news. So is he available to play tomorrow? Is it a bit too early or no pack?
He's available.
Yeah, good stuff. Matej Jurasek?
Still not available. And I think based on, especially this week here, where we've had him and looked at him very closely, I think it's for us to do some extra build with him, fitness-wise, build him up to be ready for the championship intensity and championship physicality. I think that's probably the most important for him to build. So we cannot afford to take any chances here. So probably realistic for him that he will be back with the team after the international break.
And I guess that's sort of a bonus that you've added him in January, isn't it? That now you've got this run up, obviously, to the summer and next season potentially to have this period to build him up physically.
We would have loved for him to play, because that's also one of the reasons why you buy players, because you want him to play. But yeah, we have to understand that it's a tough business, and the championship is a tough one. And when you could get away with a tackle like the one on Ben without receiving a red card, then you have to really be prepared in your body to play those very intensive games, and he's probably not there yet, and we have to make sure that he's fully ready when he comes on.
And Mankwa Forson, I think the hope was that he'd come back into training this week. Has that happened?
Yeah, not this week, or probably Sunday actually, where I think that's the plan, that will be his first team training again. He's been on his own with a physio so far. So first team training on Sunday, and then we have to wait and see how it goes. If everything goes well, potentially he can be involved in the game Tuesday night, but we have to wait and see. But the plan is that he will be involved Sunday.
George Long as well, obviously missed or wasn't in the matchday squad last weekend. Where are we at with him and sort of where he's at fitness wise?
Tuesday, if everything goes well. Of course, I had some small symptoms on that concussion, and we have to put him through an intense goalkeeper session to see how he reacts to that. So that will be based on that. We take that decision, and that will be Monday next week, where he's cleared to also be involved with the training group again.
Okay, and I'm guessing in terms of sort of Gabe Forsyth, Liam Gibbs, still sort of as you were on those two.
Yeah, Gibbsy is. We'll see if we can make him return to training after international break. Have to wait and see. Gabe Forsyth, unfortunately, still feels some pain in that knee, so now we have to go to the next step, which is surgery somehow, and we have to, because it's a little bit tricky for them to find out exactly what it is, and I think they have to open the knee and see what it is, and based on that we have to find out when he can return to training. But that's unfortunate news for him.
Do you think that's likely to be his season now, given where we're at? Too early to say?
Yeah, you never know, and probably too early to say, but it's never good when you have to open a knee to see what's inside.
No, it isn't. I'm not a doctor, and yeah, I can tell that. In terms of anything else, you've done incredibly well to remember all of those, first and foremost. But is there anything else?
I remember everything else. Otherwise, you were there tomorrow evening, and we can talk again.
Yeah, good stuff. But obviously, you're boosted by the return of, which I guess is good, on the left back front of Callum Doyle now, having served that suspension. So
he's needed.
He is needed.
So that's good.
Yeah, but in terms of him stepping back in, I guess it gives you the option to retain Jose as well, who's had a good couple of weeks. So even though you've lost a couple in that position, it does provide an opportunity, I guess, for him to come back into the team.
Yeah, definitely. So good timing for him that he's back now, and probably also, in that sense, quite good that he has some rest, and he comes back with a smile on his face. He's been enjoying the team training out here this week and the sunshine and everything. So he's more than looking forward to the game tomorrow.
Blackburn, just to reflect on that. I mean, after you have obviously the way that it ended and all of the emotion and frustration that was around that, how do you go about dissecting it for the players in the days that follow? I guess a lot of it is allowing that emotion to subside and then be able to look at it fairly sort of objectively in that regard. So what were the sort of few days like after that game?
I was still frustrated the day after, and probably also 2 days after. And I think it was an important message, because actually we touched upon it after the Stoke game, where I was not satisfied with some of our decisions in critical times of the game. I think we did well, and I think our performance home against Stoke was probably one of our best home performances this season, and we created so many chances, and we should have made it 5 and 6 before they scored their second goal. But there was still those moments in the game where we switch off collectively and also individually in moments, and we addressed that the meeting after that. But it seemed like we didn't get everything right, because I think especially the moments after our goal in Blackburn, we are not good enough, and we are not doing what it takes to make sure that we win that game, because it had to be a win based on the late goal, because of course leading up to that it was still a tight and an even game away from home against a team that's also playing for playoff positions, so probably as expected. And I think, like I also said to you after the game, I think in many ways we did well, and I think we created some good moments, and I think there were some good things in our game overall. But then, of course, when you score your first goal so late in the game, you have to be able to kill it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be aware of the stats around it. I think it's 25 points dropped from winning positions. Clearly, there's lots of context around that, because it will include the games against Leeds and Sheffield United early on in the season, which I think most people would accept are a good point. But does that point to a mentality thing? Does it point to a bigger issue that you need to get a grip of? Is it just a byproduct of having a young squad? How would you sort of dissect that statistic and that trend?
I think I'll never be a fan of saying that it's a young squad, because of course you can be a young player with a lot of experience, but it's probably down to experience and understanding also what it takes to win a game the last 10 minutes, because from minute 1 of a game to minute probably 80 or 85, we talk about that we want to be efficient, we want to be fast, we want to take quick throws and quick goal kicks and stuff like that to keep the flow and the rhythm in the game. We don't want a slow game, we want a game where it's us constantly looking for scoring a goal or creating the next chance. That's the approach we have. But as also highlighted to the players, which is probably important to highlight, is that changes when you step into the last 5 minutes of a game or the last 10 minutes of a game when you are in front, and that's where we're not good enough. Whether that's down to age or experience or something third or fourth, it's probably a little bit difficult just to say it's because of that or it's because of that. There's many things to it, and I think there's many players where their decision making was not good enough at the end of the game. We dribble where we're supposed to pass. We pass when we're supposed to keep the ball. We are too quick in taking throw-ins and free kicks and stuff like that when we're supposed to be slower. And that was for probably all the players involved in that last 10 minutes of the game. So, and we had some experienced guys on the pitch. So I don't know exactly what it is, but we have to address it, and we have to make sure that we do better, because, of course, like I said, scoring so late, we should never concede. Having a game home against Derby where everything is under control, we should never concede at the end. And if we have ambitions, which we definitely have, then we cannot get along with this.
Yeah, and I know since you've been at the club, you've sort of reiterated a few times, it's always about the next goal for you and scoring that next goal and taking that control. I mean, again, another stat, I think it's the most equalisers conceded in the Championship, which shows you're doing really well to get the lead, but then maybe there's something that happens. I know you were asked a couple of weeks ago about sort of this drop off into maybe a block that is not necessarily something you want. So does that all feed into the same idea that maybe that's the barrier at the moment between this group and perhaps real progress?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it's also fair enough, taking into consideration how many new players we have and how many new signings and of course the age profile of the group, which is a lot younger than we have been used to. But when that young group gets the experience in conceding late in the game and conceding equalizers and stuff like that, hopefully at some point it will turn and be experienced in a good way, so we can learn from it and be even better. We hope that experience already shows tomorrow. So hopefully when we get in front tomorrow, we respond in a better way and we take control in the game and see if we can score the next one, because that will be that is definitely the next step for us, so we can have more games that we are in control of earlier than what we have seen so far this season. And again, I know I go back to that Stoke game many times, but it should never be that tight so long in a game like that. And we have seen it in other games so far this season, and we saw it in the beginning of the season as well. So it is definitely something where we talk about so much about taking the next step to be really, really competitive, and that step is that.
Just one on Borja Science. Clearly, there's he's been excellent this season in terms of the goals that he's produced and the output. Still joint top goal scorer in the Championship. But hasn't scored since November. I know you spoke previously, I think, in around his suspension about how maybe he's found it quite difficult to step into that role to be a leading player. So how's he finding this spell? Because when you sort of go a period without a goal, I can imagine you try and force things a little bit more. You try and snatch at opportunities. So how do you have to sort of help him through this period?
Actually, not that much, because I think he's in a much better place than he was just before the suspension. I think also some of his performances has actually been better than some of his performances where he scored goals. I know, of course, goals is everything in football, and we have to make sure that he will start scoring goals again for us, because we need them, and we need him to be in that flow where he's consistently a threat. But I think again, his away game in Hull was good. His performance against Stoke was in many ways really, really good. I think he did some really, really good stuff, and was not individually in his thoughts. He could have had a shot early on in the game where he slid that pass in for Marcelino to begin with, where he missed the target. So I think his decision making is definitely better now. We just have to, of course, make him understand that it's okay for him to have a shot on goal once in a while, but he finds himself in many good positions, and he's a big part of our offensive game still. And I think defensively he's definitely improved, because that's the step that he needs to take. He needs to understand that for him to go and find his next step in his career, then it's not about his offensive end product. It's about what he will contribute with defensively, and that was probably not good enough in the start of the season, but definitely better now.
And in terms of progress, I mean, Antti Sienats, we probably should have been talking about him after Blackburn, really, and what an excellent finish it was. I think that's now 10 goal contributions for him in the first year in England, where he's played, I think, half of his minutes as a right winger. Still a very young man. You must be really pleased with his progress and how he's adapted to life at the club.
I am, because it was not easy for him when we struggled with all those injuries, where he was the one who took the responsibility for us, being the guy up front. So it's never easy, and especially when you come from an environment that is so different from what you step into. It's never easy, and I think he's been doing well, and I'm just happy on his behalf, because it's important also to show first and foremost your teammates, but also fans and everyone watching what you can do, what you are capable of. And I think that finish was fantastic. Just he could have been dancing with the fans still today if he would have been the match winner.
Indeed. Have you seen a growth in him in terms of personality-wise as well? Because I think you spoke about when he came out, maybe he was quite introverted, and obviously walking into a different environment is difficult, let alone from abroad. So have you seen that growth in him as a person as well?
Yeah, I have, because he struggled a little bit halfway through the season, where he was playing a lot, and he was probably a little bit tired, both mentally but also, of course, physically. And then, even though we didn't have many solutions up front, we decided to take him off a couple of games and make him come on from the bench instead, where when you step into a game and there's 30 minutes left, the defenders are a little bit more tired, there's a little bit more space for you to find. So that was our way of seeing if we could get him started again for us. But he adapted quite well to that, and I think also that was against Stoke again when he came on start of second half, and he was directly involved in that second goal for Josh. So in many ways, really, really good. So now he needs to step into that. What is it? Probably third different period of the season for him, where he needs to be one of the guys where we can trust him in good performances consistently.
Indeed. Just a few on Oxford then. I think it's hard to think about Oxford without thinking about the opening day of the season and how that all unfolded. Clearly there was a lot of mitigation that day, which we don't need to reopen. But you sort of, when you look at it and reflect on it from that point to where you are now and the development of the team, you must be really, or even though we've spoken about maybe some of the areas you have to go, you must be really pleased with how far the team has come. Maybe, although you'd argue maybe it couldn't have felt much lower than that day.
Yeah, it feels like it 5 years ago. It feels like it's a completely different season, and so many things have changed since. So yeah, I'm in many ways looking forward to it, but again, it's a game like all the others, so we just have to do our best and make sure that we find the level that we know we have. Then hopefully it's going to be a good day for us and a good result for us. But yeah, we try not to waste too much time with finding highlights from that first game of the season, because that was probably from minute 1 to minute 90 a waste of time.
and absolutely. And I guess at this point you must be pleased how much closer it looks like to your team than it did on that day at Oxford, where it didn't really look like a team.
Definitely, because we are at a stage of the season where I think it's fair for us to have big ambitions, because we play in such a good way in many games, and I think, of course, we look at that Preston defeat as being a frustration and a frustrating evening and stuff like that. But I think it's also fair to say that we are about to find our level and find where we are as a group. And I think what we have shown is that we can be up there competing with the best teams in the league. We just, of course, have to get rid of all those injuries, because that's a big killer in terms of being consistent and competitive enough. So that's definitely something we have to look at and is looking at. And then the experience for all the young guys now. That experience will be so useful for us when we step into next season, because we have shown what we can do. It's just about getting rid of those games where we don't play up to our standards, or at least make sure when we have games like that, because every team in the world, also the best ones in the world, they have games like games where they don't play up to their best, but they still manage to get a result. I watched the Champions League night or game yesterday evening, and the team in red, they got a quite good result, even though it's fair probably to say that it was not the best performance of the season.
I think that's very fair. Final couple, obviously Gary Rowett there now, very experienced at this level. What sort of game are you expecting? Are you expecting a different Oxford approach from maybe what you had on the opening day?
A little bit, I think. I think they are a little bit more direct. Actually, I think they try to play, especially in the first half against us, and we struggled a little bit in our pressing game. In that game, we opened up some spaces which we shouldn't have done. And now analysing and watching all their games or the last 5-8 games, a little bit more direct, and we have to be especially aware when their midfielders, they get on the ball, when they drop to the defenders to receive the ball, or they drop in positions where they can receive it, their runs in behind up front, because that's where they can cause some problems for us. So that's definitely one thing we have looked at, how we can defend that, because we could also see against Blackburn the way for them to get into the game was those early deep passes in behind, where we in moments of the game struggled a little bit to defend it well enough, and that's been a big focus point for us this week.
And finally, obviously, it's a Carrow Road doubleheader, Oxford tomorrow, Sheffield Wednesday on Tuesday. What can you learn from this? That obviously the lessons maybe from that Derby and Preston doubleheader, which felt like a big opportunity. You obviously took 1 point from those two games. What lessons can you learn heading into these two?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, we changed probably a little bit too much from game to game, Derby and Preston. I'm a big believer that if we do our things well enough, then we don't have to change our structure or formation. Then we can do the same things that is working for us. And now we have done it for 4 or 5 games in a row. With if you look at that, we have a couple of wins, we have a couple of draws, and what's most important for me, I think, some good performances in the last 3 games or so. So it's about probably sticking to the things that we know that we can do, and just make sure that we do things well enough in terms of the movements and the timing and the passing quality, because then we will create chances. And yeah, I'm a big believer that we have to do it in our way. That's where we have to focus. That's where we have to put the concentration and the focus. And then, of course, making the players aware on some tactical things they need to be aware of. But yeah, most of the game needs to be with us controlling and dominating. Then I'm definitely sure we can get a good result.
Good stuff. Thanks, Johannes. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks.